Republican Senator Ted Cruz, in an episode of his podcast that came out this past Saturday, took the Clarence Thomas path and said that he believes that the Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage here in the United States was wrongly decided. Let me read what Mr. Cruz had to say. Obergefell, like Roe v. Wade, ignored 2 centuries of our nation's history. Marriage was always an issue that was left to the states. We saw states before Obergefell. Some states were moving to allow gay marriage. Other states were moving to allow civil partnerships. There were different standards that the states were adopting. In Obergefell, the court said, no, we know better than you, and now every state must sanction and permit gay marriage. That decision was clearly wrong when it was decided, says Ted Cruz on the most recent episode of his Verdict podcast. Now, Ted Cruz has always been against this decision, right? This is not just a new thing that Ted Cruz has put out there. But the timing of it, of course, is what makes this very relevant today. Clarence Thomas, as I mentioned, in his concurring opinion with the decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, talked about how Lawrence, how Obergefell, how a couple other cases, contraception, same-sex marriage, sodomy, all those decisions were wrongly decided, and we would like for the court to, have the opportunity to go back and fix some of these mistakes of the past. But here's the thing that Ted Cruz conveniently ignores about his little diatribe of the states were already fixing it. Actually, they weren't, buddy. Because as you know, not all of those civil partnerships or whatever, that still did not grant the same rights to the person you've entered a civil partnership with as you would if you were married to them. Hospital visits, inheritances, alimony, things like that, child support, whatever it is. Not all of the civil partnerships recognized by some states allowed for those things to happen. You couldn't even be considered the next of kin for somebody if they were in a horrible accident and you wanted to go visit them in the hospital to say your goodbyes. So yeah, there were serious problems with that. And it is nice to have national standards for those kinds of things, right, Ted? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it was wrongly decided. We needed nationwide standards for such common things as marriage, just like we have national standards for money. Every state doesn't get to print their own money, a Florida dollar, a Texas dollar, what's the exchange rate going across the border? Who knows? No, we understood that this is a relatively universal thing. So we said, you know what, we kind of need to do this at the federal level. The states can't handle something this complicated. And apparently the states couldn't handle something as complicated as same-sex marriage or marriage equality in general. So the Supreme Court stepped up, they made the right decision here, but Ted Cruz right now is trying to pander to his bigoted base. That is what this is all about. Ted Cruz is not done. Ted Cruz still wants that presidency. And he thinks in order to do that, he has to pander, of course, to not only the religious extremist on the right, but also to the angry MAGA crowd out there. Even though a majority of Americans, including Democrats, Republicans, and independents, a majority of each group actually supports same-sex marriage. Most Republicans want same-sex marriage to be a thing that's available. But Ted Cruz doesn't care about those poll numbers. He just cares about energizing the fringe extremes of his own party so that maybe one day they can propel him into the Oval Office. This is Hattie. Hattie wants to know why you have not subscribed to our channel. You obviously like our videos, so do us a favor and subscribe.